When a 13-year-old boy sets out to commit murder, most of us would call it tragic, both for his victims and for the would-be murderer himself. What would drive such a young boy to such depths and at such a young age to cause him to try and murder innocent people? Most people and the media networks, however, would not run a lifestyle story about this boy's incredible heart, good grades, and ambitions for life. The exception to this, of course, is when a 13-year-old boy sets out to kill Jews in Jerusalem. I'm Luke, and this is the Israel Guys. Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, it is windy and cold, it's snowing, it's raining, it's hailing, it's doing everything that it typically does in the winter here in Israel, but it's a little bit late because it's been a very mild winter so far, but it's definitely making up for it this week, and the winter storms are rolling in. They're getting snow on Mount Hermon. They're talking about flash flooding down in the desert, and where we are in the center of the country, we're just getting high winds, lots of rain, lots of hail, and it is definitely wet and cold. So could be a little bit dismal, but we always remember that rain is a blessing in the land of Israel because they need it. It's a very dry country, and they only have a short rainy season during the summer, spring and summer, and most of the fall, they don't get any rain at all. Guys, we are only 500 subscribers away from reaching 60,000 subscribers on YouTube, so if you're a YouTube watcher, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, and let us know if you're a new subscriber down in the comment section below. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could hit 60,000 subscribers just from today's show? By the way, I'm Luke Hilton here on Tuesday, February 7th. Today is the 16th of Shvat on the Hebrew calendar. And yes, official announcement for the Israel Guys is that we are now coming to you Monday through Friday. YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you want to watch or listen, the Israel Guys is here for you every single day, bringing you the cutting edge stories specifically from Israel's Heartland, the things that you won't see in the mainstream media, the lies that the mainstream media is telling you, and that's what we're going to focus on today. But we can't do it without your help. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and please, please, please subscribe or follow on whatever platform you're listening or watching right now. I'm going to be here every single Tuesday from now on, so thank you guys so much for being with me. Again, drop a comment down in the comment section if you're a new subscriber, new viewer. Happy to have you with me today. And let me know if you have a comment or a question. I don't know if I'll get to answering everything, but hopefully I'll be able to read all of your comments. So today, we're talking about a massive lie that none other than Reuters is telling you this week. You know, a lot of times it's the New York Times, Haaretz here in Israel, which is like the Israeli version of the New York Times, Al Jazeera, the Qatar-funded, state-controlled media network. Today, we're talking about Reuters. They ran a lifestyle-like article all about a 13-year-old Arab boy in Jerusalem whose dream was simply to become a chef. He had good grades in school. He wasn't like a dropout or someone that didn't focus on his studies. He had big dreams. He was planning to go to college. Sounds like an amazing story, right? There's just one small problem. This 13-year-old boy took a gun just a week before last and set out to murder Jews, managed to injure two of them. And now Reuters is running it's like a Time magazine type style piece about a 13-year-old boy whose ambition was just to become a chef in Jerusalem. But you don't have to believe me. We'll put it up on the screen. You'll see it for yourself. Source links down in the description below. But I'm going to read you a couple of direct quotes. Are you ready? This is from the Reuters article. Quote, "In the middle of last week, 13-year-old Palestinian Mahmoud Alawat was pressing his teachers for the school report he needed so he could go to a Jerusalem college to train as a chef. 3 days later, he was lying unconscious in hospital, accused of opening fire at a group of Israeli passersby in Jerusalem's Silwan district." Okay? So first off, the article is focusing on this boy's beautiful lifestyle, and then he's accused, potentially, allegedly, falsely accused, right? That's what this article would have you believe. It went on to talk about an alleged attack where 3 people were shot and wounded. Three 3 people were shot and wounded, including the boy. So already Reuters is setting the stage. 3 people were shot and injured, including 2 Jews and this 13-year-old Palestinian Arab boy in Jerusalem, allegedly that he was the one that shot the 2 Jews, and then he was shot in return to keep from murdering people. But they're going to put it all on an equal playing scale, right? Okay, let's go on. Quote, 2 people were critically wounded, and Alawat was shot and wounded by one of the group. That's a misleading statement if I've ever heard one. I mean, 2 people were shot and wounded, and this boy was shot and wounded by one of the group. So who knows who shot these other 2 people? But we do know this 13-year-old boy was shot by somebody that was there. Quote, police have not publicly named a suspect, but his lawyer said they accuse Alawat of opening fire and attempted murder. Accusations his family rejects. So you probably heard about the horrific terrorist attack that happened in Jerusalem last week. 7 Jewish worshipers were shot and killed while coming out of a synagogue on a Friday night, just about a week and a half ago now. One of the worst terrorist attacks Israel has seen, I think in decades actually, which it was basically a mass casualty attack. A 21-year-old terrorist shot and killed 7 Jewish people as they were coming out of Friday night services, Friday night prayers on a Shabbat here in Jerusalem. So just hours after that attack, and probably didn't get as much headline coverage in the mainstream media because of how horrific that attack was, but a few hours after that, a 13-year-old Mahmoud Alawat opened fire near the city of David and the town and the neighborhood of Silwan in Jerusalem, and ended up severely injuring a 47-year-old father and his 23-year-old son. Okay, now I don't know if we can play it or not because YouTube might end up censoring us, but there's actual footage of the boy. You maybe Google it if we're not able to put it up on the screen. But there's actual footage of this 13-year-old boy hiding behind several vehicles with a handgun. And there's pictures of the gun and the magazines and everything. And then group of Jewish people comes by. He comes out and opens fire on them, shoots a 47-year-old father, shoots a 23-year-old son. And then a civilian, I think several civilians ended up being able to stop him, including an off-duty security officer. They drew someone drew their gun and was able to neutralize him. Didn't kill him actually on the spot, but neutralize him, and he was able to be arrested and taken to a hospital because he was injured. But he was overpowered. So that's a fact. There's not like a question of what happened here. It's not like there was no cameras and nobody really saw what happened. No, 13-year-old Arab boy takes a handgun, goes out, hides behind several vehicles on the street, waits for a group of Jews to come by. A whole group shoots and injures 2 of them, severely injures them, and is then overpowered, arrested. Okay, guess what Reuters does? They run a lifestyle article in Time magazine. The first several paragraphs are all about this amazing 13-year-old boy who got good grades in school, and just a week ago he was adamant to his teachers that he had to get his report card so that he could go fill out application forms for a Jerusalem college, so that he could train to become a chef. All these incredible things, and his family. There's another quote from the article said, quote, people who knew Alawat are puzzled about what could have prompted him to carry out such an act. His family denies that he could have possibly been involved, and they're like, where could an amazing boy like this have gotten such a crazy idea to take a gun and go out and shoot people, especially at 13 years old? People are so puzzled. Well, I've got an idea for you. So number one, let's get something straight. Number one, it's not a question of whether or not he carried out this terrorist attack, okay? 2, why is Reuters running a lifestyle Time magazine type of piece about this amazing 13-year-old? Now, yes, I agree. I mean, anybody agrees. It's tragic that a 13-year-old at such a young age would take a gun and be inspired to go out and shoot and kill people. And no, it should not be happening. And it's tragic for him. It's tragic for the victims. But the question is, why did he do this? Okay, so first of all, the facts are he did it. Okay, there's no question about that. And the other question is, why is Reuters just outright lying and publishing a propaganda piece trying to get you to see this boy in an amazing light? And oh yes, there's this false accusation, this alleged accusation that he committed this terrorist attack, but there's no proof at all. Yeah, there is. There's a video actually. Okay. But I've got an idea for you, because his family and friends are wondering, where could he have gotten such an idea? What? They're so puzzled. Why would he be inspired to go commit an act of terror? I've got a pretty good idea for you, okay? The mainstream media, they're not going to report about it, but here you go. How about Palestinian Authority TV Fatah, the terrorist organization that controls the PA, Fatah Television, publishing propaganda pieces about hating Israel, killing Jews, little children waving knives saying, we will return to our land, we will kill Jews, songs written about it, poems written about it, streets and squares named after terrorists, infamous terrorists. How about school curriculum in the Palestinian Authority? Teaching children that all of Israel should be Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. How about summer camps? You know, there's 100,000 Arab children that went to summer camp in the Gaza Strip that last year. And you know what they were learning at summer camp? They were learning how to commit acts of terror. They were learning how to kill Jews, how to carry out violence. And there was also thousands of children that went to summer camps here in Judea and Samaria in the so-called West Bank to learn the exact same things. How about the promise that he and this 13-year-old boy, yes, he and his family will now begin receiving a monthly salary from the Palestinian Authority. Maybe all of those things might have inspired him to do something. Basically, he was inspired to go be a martyr because he was indoctrinated. He was brainwashed into thinking that if he went out and killed a Jew, he would receive glory. He would go get a martyr's. If he was killed, he would go to heaven and get 72 virgins. That his family would be hailed as a hero. That his family would be financially compensated and taken care of for the rest of their lives. This is a 13-year-old. It's just absolutely horrific. It should be considered international. It should be considered child abuse, and it should be considered an international outrage that young children like this would be indoctrinated to commit such acts of terror. But anyways, Reuters, you outright lied, and you outright published propaganda, false propaganda in this piece, not reporting the truth at all. You guys, let's call them out for it. Share this article. Reuters is a bunch of liars. I'm sorry. That's all there is to it, really. The world wants you to boycott Israeli products that are produced in what they call the occupied West Bank. As Israel supporters, we can fight back against BDS by joining the Heartland Challenge. Here's how it works. Pick one item that you use on a regular basis and commit to only purchasing that item from Israel's biblical heartland. If you're wondering how in the world can I purchase a product from Judea and Samaria, Blessed by Israel makes it super easy for you. Blessed by Israel is a company that was started by good friends of ours. They source incredible boutique products from small businesses located in Judea and Samaria, and then they ship those products straight to your doorstep. We've partnered with Blessed by Israel to promote the Heartland Challenge, encouraging supporters of Israel all around the world to commit to using certain products only from Judea and Samaria. So whether it's olive oil, tea, soap, ceramics, they have chocolate, things like that. Blessed by Israel is encouraging everyone to buy what you believe in and then share that message with your community and friends. It's time to build and invest in the Heartland of Israel. Join the Heartland Challenge today and start making a difference. To find out more, go to blessedbyisrael.com. That's blessedbyisrael.com, or check out the link in the description below. So a couple of other pieces of news. I would consider these good news, actually. And one is that the parents of terror victim have actually sued the Biden administration in America for continuing to send hundreds of millions of dollars to the Palestinian Authority, which actually goes against U.S. law. So the parents of Taylor Force, you may have heard that name before, decided to sue the Biden administration. Taylor Force was an American citizen that was killed in Israel in a terrorist attack in 2016. And after that, the Taylor Force Act was passed in the United States, in U.S. Congress, passed into law, and it prohibits U.S. government funding from being transferred to the Palestinian Authority to be used in paying stipends to terrorists and their families. I think it actually goes further than that. It's that the U.S. is not supposed to give any money to the Palestinian Authority until they actually prove that they're not giving any more money to terrorists and that they're not inciting terrorism and all of these things. And the Palestinian, I know we cover this all the time, but the Palestinian Authority literally pays hundreds of millions of dollars to terrorists who are sitting in Israeli prisons. And if a terrorist died in an attack, then the money goes to their family. And if you actually manage to kill a Jew, then you're taken care of for life. And these are hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. The Palestinian Authority is so adamant about this that even if they have to cut salaries to their civil servants, to government employees, they'll cut their salaries before they cut salaries to terrorists sitting in prison, right? So the U.S. Passed a law called the Taylor Force Act, which prohibits U.S. funding from going to the Palestinian Authority while they continue the pay-to-slay program. And President Trump actually followed the law, stop payments to terrorists, right? So during his time in office, well, the Biden administration decided, we need to give some money back to the poor Palestinians. So they started transferring hundreds of millions of dollars again to the PA, which obviously has continued to be used for paying money to terrorists. And now the parents of Taylor Force have decided that enough is enough. If U.S. President Biden will not follow American law, then they have to hold him accountable for it in the U.S. State Department. So they're suing the Biden administration. And by the way, newsflash for you, in case you haven't figured this out yet, if the U.S. if they decided to stop sending hundreds of millions of dollars to the Palestinian Authority, guess what would happen? Eventually it would reach a breaking point because they wouldn't President Trump stopped it for several years. Obviously, they turned to other countries for support, but eventually the Middle East, they respect strength, right? They respect power. So show power, say you're not getting another dollar, you're not getting another $100 million, $500 million, and guess what? Eventually, even if the Palestinian Authority government would not cave in, then eventually the people would get sick and tired because they don't want their economy collapsing. They don't want to see themselves go to ruin just because to see their government. They want to be taken care of. That the average Arab living in Judea and Samaria under the Palestinian Authority, guess what? They just want to feed their families. They just want to go to work, have a stable job. They want to have a vision for a future of their life. So, newsflash, America, follow U.S. law, follow the U.S. Taylor Force Act, stop sending money to the Palestinian Authority until they absolutely abolish the pay-to-slay program and stop sending hundreds of millions of dollars to terrorists, convicted murderers sitting in Israeli prisons. Hashtag stop funding terrorism. Drop it in the comments below, guys. We have to hold the U.S. accountable. So a couple of other pieces of good news. Member of Knesset Danny Danon actually presented an annexation bill to annex the Jordan Valley in Judea and Samaria. Jordan Valley makes up 30% of Judea and Samaria. This would be, the correct terminology is actually to apply sovereignty, because annexation means that you're taking a piece of territory that's not yours and adding it to your country, right? Well, Judea and Samaria, that never happened because Judea and Samaria was not part of another country before, right? Israel recaptured or liberated these areas, recaptured these areas in the 1967 war. But since then, they've never applied Israeli law, so they've never applied sovereignty. So basically, Judea and Samaria are ruled under Israeli military law, right? So correct terminology would be to apply sovereignty to the Jordan Valley. Like I said, makes up 30% of the area. And this would be the first, if Israel goes through and tries to push through this law, it would be the first time that Israel's government has made a move towards sovereignty or annexation, if people call it that, since the 1967 war. So 65 years, right? Something like that. So on the one hand, you could say, well, no, Israel needs to apply sovereignty to all of Judea and Samaria. And on the other hand, you could say, well, maybe this is step one, and it's a step in the right direction. But either way, it'll be really interesting to watch, see how much this right-wing government stands on its own 2 feet and doesn't give in to the protests of the liberal left. One last piece of news for you. This is the annual West Bank population report. All of you guys that send me emails and comments saying not to use the term West Bank, this is actually the official name. You can check out the source link down below. It's done by a right-wing organization here in Israel, and they have a website called West Bank Population Report. They publish an annual report every single year. As of January 1st, 2023, there were 502,991 residents living in Judea and Samaria. This represents a 2.55% growth in the last 12 months and 5.59% growth in the last 5 years. So this does not include the 340,000 or so people living in what the world calls East Jerusalem. So if you put all that together, we're talking about nearly 850,000 residents that are living in what the world considers the West Bank, or what you might hear called the occupied territory. So based off the growth rate of the last 5 years, predictions are that Judea and Samaria will pass 1 million residents by the year 2047. Now, that takes into account that for the last 5 years, the residents here have constantly been struggling against settlement freezes, international pressure against Israel's government, unfriendly Israeli government towards settlements, constant, not getting permits to build new houses in the Jewish communities here, things like that. Now, hopefully this new right-wing government will actually encourage settlement growth, encourage the Jewish communities to grow and prosper and thrive. If that happens, I hope and pray that the population of Judea and Samaria grows much faster, and they'll hit 1 million residents. I distinctly remember when there was like a little over 250,000 residents in Judea and Samaria, and obviously that's doubled, and we're talking just in the last 15 years or less. So hopefully we will see population growth growing much faster and exponentially improving. But either way, bottom line of this report, right, is that the Jewish residents of Judea and Samaria are not going anywhere. I put this in all caps because I want to make it clear. If you're an Israel hater, if you're an Israel supporter, either way, you can come against this or you can celebrate this. But Judea and Samaria are not going anywhere, okay? There's more than 500,000 people living here. They barely evicted 8,000 people out of the Gaza Strip in 2005. There's no way. This is not happening again in Judea and Samaria ever. Okay, so get that in your head. Two-state solution, not happening. Palestinian state here, not a viable option. The Jewish people are here to stay in Israel's biblical heartland. In the words of Baruch Gordon, who is a resident of Beit El and one of the publishers of the report that I just quoted from, he said, quote, "We've reached a huge hallmark. We're here to stay." Jewish, Judea, and Samaria, including East Jerusalem, is here to stay, not going anywhere at all. And now the only other thing left to do is to apply sovereignty here so that the residents of Judea and Samaria can live under Israeli law and be treated equally like the rest of Israel's settlements. Guys, got to wrap up, hitting that time mark again. I feel like I should rename this show "The Lies the Media Tells Us," because I feel like that's all I'm doing. Anyways, if you have a lie you want to see us address, debunking the media, drop it down in the comments below. Reach out to us. Check out all the rest of our content at theisraelguys.com. This Reuters piece we talked about today, probably one of the worst propaganda pieces I think I've ever seen. As usual, do not believe the mainstream media when it comes to Israel. Don't forget, guys, support Israel's biblical heartland by purchasing beautiful boutique products from blessedbyisrael.com. Click the link down in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so we can hit 60,000 subscribers here in the next week. Get the conversation going down below. I'd love to hear from you so I can read your comments where you're listening from if you're a new watcher, subscriber. Remember to tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We're here every Monday through Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.